The jungle is alive, they say, and it watches, waiting. The villagers always warned Ravi about the jungle. They said there was something wrong with it, especially the abandoned house hidden deep within. People claimed to hear whispers, see shadows, and feel an unnatural cold. No one who entered the house came back the same, or at all. Ravi didn't believe in ghost stories. He was curious, adventurous, and thought the warnings were just tales to keep children from wandering too far. One moonlit night, with a flashlight in hand and courage in his heart, Ravi ventured into the jungle to uncover the truth. At first, everything felt normal. The sound of chirping insects and rustling leaves filled the air. But as Ravi went deeper, the jungle began to change. The trees grew taller and thicker, their branches twisting into unnatural shapes. The usual forest sounds faded into an eerie silence. Ravi's footsteps seemed deafening in the stillness. His heart pounded in his chest as he pushed forward, the beam of his flashlight cutting through the darkness. After what felt like hours, he finally saw it. The house. It stood in a clearing, bathed in pale moonlight. The sight of it made Ravi's breath catch. The house was old, its walls cracked and covered in vines. Its windows were broken, staring out like empty eyes. Yet, it seemed to pulse with an unseen energy, as though it were alive and waiting for him. The front door creaked open on its own. A cold breeze rushed out, carrying the faint scent of decay. Against his better judgment, Ravi stepped inside. Inside the house, the air was heavy, thick with the weight of something Ravi couldn't explain. Dust covered every surface, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling like curtains. As he moved through the room, his flashlight landed on a photograph sitting on the mantelpiece. It showed a family, a man, a woman, and a little girl. Their faces were faded and blurred, but their eyes seemed to follow him wherever he went. Ravi felt a chill crawl up his spine. Then he heard it, a whisper. Faint at first, like a breeze through the trees. But it grew louder, coming from everywhere and nowhere all at once. "Who's there?" Ravi called out, his voice trembling. The whisper stopped. For a moment, there was only silence. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw movement. He turned sharply, and there she was. At the foot of the staircase stood a woman in a white dress, her head bowed low, her face hidden beneath long, tangled hair. She didn't move, didn't make a sound. She simply raised a hand and pointed up the stairs. Ravi's instinct screamed at him to run, but his feet wouldn't obey. It was as if the house itself had rooted him to the spot. Slowly, he began climbing the stairs, his flashlight shaking in his hand. Each step creaked under his weight, the sound echoing through the house. The woman remained at the bottom, watching him ascend. At the top, Ravi found himself in a child's bedroom. The air was icy cold, his breath visible in the beam of his flashlight. Toys were scattered across the floor, and a rocking chair swayed gently back and forth, as though someone had just left it. Before Ravi could turn back, the door slammed shut behind him. His flashlight flickered, and the whispers returned, louder this time, almost angry. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in around him. A doll lying on the floor caught his attention. Its head turned slowly toward him, its cracked smile stretching unnaturally wide. Ravi stumbled backward, but before he could react, something icy grabbed his ankle. Looking down, he saw a skeletal hand reaching out from beneath the floorboards, its bony fingers clawing at him. Ravi screamed, kicking frantically to free himself. The whispers turned into guttural growls, and more hands began to emerge from the floor, pulling at his legs. With a desperate burst of strength, Ravi broke free and ran out into the hallway. But the house wasn't done with him yet. The hallway had changed. It stretched endlessly in both directions, with doors on either side. Ravi tried one, then another, but every door led back to the same child's bedroom. Panic set in as he realized the house was toying with him, trapping him in its maze. Then she appeared again, the woman in white. This time she was at the end of the hallway. Her face was no longer hidden. Ravi wished it still was. Her skin was pale and rotting, her eyes black voids, and her mouth twisted into a grotesque grin. She let out a blood-curdling scream and began to move toward him. Her feet hovering above the ground, Ravi's survival instincts kicked in. He grabbed a lantern from a nearby shelf and hurled it at the wall. The lantern shattered and flames erupted, spreading quickly. The house roared in anger, the walls trembling as if alive. The woman shrieked, her form flickering and dissolving in the fire. Ravi seized the moment, running down the staircase as the house began to collapse around him. When he reached the front door, it was locked. He pounded on it desperately, his fists bruising until suddenly it burst open. Ravi threw himself outside, collapsing onto the cold ground. Behind him, the house was engulfed in flames, its haunting screams echoing into the night. Ravi stumbled back to the village at dawn, his body battered and his mind scarred. He told no one what he had seen, but the terror in his eyes and the burn marks on his arm spoke volumes. The villagers noticed that the jungle seemed quieter after that night, as though a heavy weight had been lifted. But Ravi knew better. Sometimes, on the stillest of nights, he could still hear the whispers, faint but there, a chilling reminder that the jungle doesn't forget and that some doors should never be opened.